you've seen crises before. You have a unique view and have had a unique view through LinkedIn on the impact on the economy, the impact on jobs. We've seen large swaths of companies lay off parts of their workforce. What is your outlook on the economy? How does this play out?
It's very strange because we have, on one hand, this like kind of like accelerated stock market due to fiscal policies and a bunch of other stuff, and yet an asteroid has hit the economy. And there's segments of the economy that, my heart goes out to people in those industries, whether it's, retail or any of these other kinds of things that is just like lots and lots of pain and suffering across, a lot of the workforce. Can they make rent, and what's happening with jobs, what's happening with SMBs, what's happening with restaurants. And, to some degree, I've started thinking about like, what would a new deal for, like for getting restaurants restarted and SMBs restarted and how would we do that? Because it's like really important for all of these things. On the other hand, when you're in the tech space, the part of this thing is most of what's happening is this massive acceleration in terms of digital transformation. I mean, like 2 months into the crisis and into the pandemic, Satya Nadella noted, is like, look, we've seen 2 years of advance in digital transformation in 2 months, right? Because we all have to work with these tools now. We all have to live with these tools. This is the thing that's making it happen. So generally speaking, with these funds, that's part of the reason why raising a fund is relatively straightforward in this environment, is because, well, we're already working towards that. What does that future look like?
Are you saying you think that tech won't be impacted? I mean, obviously we've seen a big sell-off in the public markets. We have seen a bunch of private tech companies lay off parts of their workforce as well.
Some tech will be impacted, even though the broad thing, because tech's about building into the future and accelerating the future, many tech companies are this asteroid, the smoke cloud is also the accelerating into the needs of the future. And so, the tech companies are acquiring more customers, the like interviews now being done, in video conference, all of these different tools are all kind of being accelerated. Now, I think some of the early layoffs and all the rest was also kind of a combination of, we're going to have volatility and uncertainty, and how do you prep for it? And how do you focus on the kinds of things that you're doing in order to reset? And I think a lot of those resets have happened. And I think a lot of the tech companies are now kind of, said, okay, we did the reset, and now we're actually getting back to trying to plan out to the future, right? And I think that's more the truth than layoffs within the tech industry.
Now, you've publicly supported Joe Biden for president, and I'm curious, with the election coming up, if Biden wins, what does that mean for tech and business? And what if Trump remains in office?
If you actually go to your average business person and you say, would you rather have a stable environment with more of a unified society with higher taxes, right? Not obviously crazy higher taxes, but higher taxes, or would you rather have lower taxes and everything falling apart? Every business person is going to say, I'll take door A, please, not door B.
Now, you're on the board of Microsoft. Greylock also invested in TikTok via Musical.ly a few years ago. What is your take on the latest turn of events? Microsoft losing the bid, Oracle winning the bid for now, details still to be worked out, and President Trump basically forcing this sale.
Look, I think that what you're really seeing here is the very first place where we are now moving into a much more multipolar tech world, where the tech companies from China aren't only doing services for China, right? Because, part of the reason why there was this amazing company, Tencent, that does WeChat, and WeChat we learn all kinds of things from as technologists, but hadn't really come over to the US much, other than people who had worked with China or, kind of other kinds of exposure. But I think what we're now going to see is technology invented in China with global scope that is going to be contending with the other, kind of global tech companies, which, we in the US have been so lucky for decades to have a kind of a broadly kind of free run. And I think that now it's the ringing of the bell, the competition's here.
So you think that Chinese technology is becoming more of a threat to American technology?
Yes. Like, which platforms are going to establish the platforms of the future? Because, when you look at it, you say, okay, a lot of messaging products, obviously we have tended to make those global messaging products, generally speaking, within the West Coast of the United States. Well, here you've got this amazing set of technology from, kind of a TikTok that is kind of having, how do you onboard someone and find videos that they want to watch and have them, kind of being, oh my God, this is like the next generation of television and entertainment, and how do you do that? And TikTok figured it out before any other company, or ByteDance figured it out before any other company in the world.
At the same time, you've got this administration and Congress from both sides of the aisle training their eyes on big tech, Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, facing this unprecedented antitrust scrutiny. Do you think these companies need to be broken up, especially now given the China threat that you're laying out? And what's the path forward for them?
So I'm a strong opponent to the breakup, because I do think, just as I described, we're in globally competition, and you want our competitors to be strong. It isn't just a question of what happens within the US. And I, by the way, look, I'm a venture capitalist. I invest in startups that compete with these companies. Like, if I thought that was the suppression of startups, then I would have potentially a moderately different answer. But I actually think there's lots of room for startups. There's lots of rooms for starting new companies, even as these large companies continue to compound at scale. And I think you need to look at global competition as part of it. Now, that doesn't mean kind of like, oh, just let the companies do whatever they want. We need to figure out, as opposed to say break up, stop, whatever, we need to say, how do we harness? How do we shape it?